Why am I so riled up?
Hello, Volkenfleck. This is William T. here, and I'm glad you're back. Every single one of you. Anyway, before I get started, I wanted to give a shout out to sleep hygiene. It's been really popular these days. People talking about it on their podcasts and on television and cable news, YouTube, TED Talks. But you know, it's true. I mean, when I get a good night's sleep for a couple of days, I feel 22 and a half years younger. Really. I mean, I'm telling you. And I'm not good at this. I get a couple of good nights sleep and then 3 bad nights sleep, and it's just not good. So I have to work harder on that because it really does make a difference. And I want to be a little more snappy, you know, on a consistent basis. You know what I'm saying? Because you get to be my age, and man, you just cherish every snappy moment you can get. Trust me. Okay? And if you're in your 50s or 40s, come on, you're kids. But you got to start now. Because if you get those good habits going now, God, when you get older, when you're like 130 or 230, you're going to be glad you did. Oh, come on, I'm kidding. When you're 85, all right? Assuming everything continues for another 30 or 40 years. Let's hope it does. All right, the topic of today is not a happy one. And I'm not going to be too persnickety or funny. Not to say I am funny, but I try to be more serious. There's nothing I hate more than insincere people who are just playing the game for the heck of it or to gain power and money and for no other reason but to win, to compete and win. Now, winning in competition is good, but you know, if you take it too far, it's pathological, in my opinion. There's nothing wrong with the NFL or with the European Football League or whatever you're into. But any kind of competition in business, in life, there's nothing wrong with it. But you can take it too far. And then it starts hurting people, and in a bad way. So any sincere intellectual, regardless of their ideological position or their worldview, who can eloquently, sincerely try to persuade you or me, or try to persuade one of a given position, and they're serious about it, and they care enough about the people they're talking to try to make themselves clear, to listen to them so they know how to talk to them. Anyone like that is fine by me. I can relate to a person like that. I can be friendly with a person like that. And I can make progress and learn something from a person like that. But if you're just having one on, then please just get out of my face. And sometimes I feel like so many people in our world today, in politics and in leadership, are just playing the game. You know, they're game theory players, and they're just doing it, you know, to signal to their base, to get some kudos, to get some bling and a response, and some attention. I could name a lot of names, but I'm not going to do that because it's boring. And whatever filter bubble you found yourself caught in lately, you already get enough people talking about the great cultural debate. And the thing is, for American people in the audience, or Europeans, especially Brits and Australians, New Zealanders, Canadians, this is getting universal now. You know, whatever you think political correctness is, and my friend gave me a great definition of it earlier today, but I forgot it. I'm sorry, I'll try to remember and let you know later, which I thought was a good working definition. But whatever you think about that, this whole thing has spilt out upon the whole wide world, every continent on the planet. And you know what made that possible? Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Google, The internet itself has made it possible for us to get sucked into filter bubbles that turn our brains into mush. 10 years ago, when I'm listening to programs like The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe and so on, or listening to the atheist versus Christian apologist debates and the so-called new atheists and whatnot, this is 10, 12 years ago. That hadn't happened yet. And there were still sincere actors out there having a discussion, and it was interesting. And I felt in my heart that this was a great thing because there's nothing but progress ahead. With these tools, people are going to learn critical thinking skills. They're going to learn how to be more skeptical. They're going to develop their bullshit detection kits. They're going to learn how science really works and what a scientific theory really is. They're going to learn about thinking fast and slow, hypotheses. They're going to learn about all these kinds of things that have come down the pike. And we're going to be thinking more clearly. And we're going to be communicating better. And we're going to be creating a global world that makes sense and can make progress. And to my mind, progress is just making normal working class people live a better life, allowing them to, giving them the tools, the education, the healthcare, enough money, just enough money. And by the way, if our whole system is predicated on producing as much shit as we can so that we can all make money and go out and buy shit, then this whole thing, this set of circumstances that we find ourselves in right now, this socio-political and cultural milieu, is not going to last very long. It's going to disappear because we're going to kill our habitat if we're not careful. And this is why I want to read Peter Joseph's books, Zeitgeist The Movement Explained, and the New Human Rights Movement, because it covers a lot of ground and ideas and space. And his basic, prescription, if you can call it that, and it really isn't that. It's a train of thought. It's designed to educate you and make you aware that there are other ways of doing things. That's basically it. And what the proposal basically boils down to is living in a world where all of us on this planet, regardless of whether you're Hungarian or Belarusian or come from the Congo or are Chinese or Malaysian, whatever. Let's get past this crap, shall we? Because we all live on this planet together and we need it in good working order. Otherwise, there's not going to be a culture left. There won't be a white homeland. There won't be a Scotland separated from the UK. There won't be a European Union that works well. There won't be peace. There won't be anything. And it's damn serious, okay? And the reason I'm in a panic mode right now is because of climate change. Now, if you're a climate change denier, if you don't think it's a big deal and you don't want to pay attention to it, because I've been paying attention to it for 35 years. And like Guy McPherson says, I've been hearing for 35 years, well, if we just start now getting our shit together, we'll be fine. But we never started. And there is no signal in sight that we're going to start getting control of this anytime soon. So, the scientists, the vast scientific consensus is that we're probably, by 2040, going to be looking at 6 degrees Celsius average temperature rise. And we can't live here anymore, much less have a civilization, because we won't be able to have our cattle and our sheep and our chickens, much less our grains, grown at scale. And that's a fact. Now, I'm going to put some things in the show notes down below. I'm new to this, so I feel kind of like an idiot. But I'll put some things in the notes below, links and so on. One a good resource, just to give it a shout out now, is skepticalscience.com, which has updated information from, NASA and every scientific organization in the world, every government, even every oil company, because there's a lot of data there, and they're interpreting the data as best we can at this moment with the tools we have and the science we have and the understanding we have. It's highly complex, but it does not look good. There's another guy who wrote a book recently, Dar Jamel, and he's a journalist, very well respected. And his book is called The End of Ice. And you've got to read that. You've got to become aware, because the more people understand what's really happening, the sooner we're going to get to a better living arrangement on this planet that's more sustainable. And I know all of you love your children. And I'm not telling you that basketball is bad or cars are bad or you shouldn't eat a cheeseburger, grass-fed beef or free-range chicken or even factory-grown chicken or DMO rice. I'm not saying that. You can do everything you still love to do, only better, in a way that's going to ensure that your family and your children are going to be able to do it, and your children's children. Now, why do I care about future generations? Okay, I care because I have this fantasy in my head that I think's exciting, and every time I read about science, engineering, or technology, or novels, or fantasy, or science fiction, I'm inspired, and I say, when I'm on my deathbed, I'm going to die with a smile on my face, because I know someday we're going to live on this planet in peace without having to kill each other over nothing. And people are going to be educated and healthy, and they're going to have long lives, and they're going to be exploring the universe. And in 100 years or 200 years, we're going to know more about the universe than we ever thought we could. Now, just since 1990, we've put up more CO2 in the atmosphere than ever before the 1750 baseline, right? So that's a lot. And we're not going to slow down, people. So we need to know now. Now, do I think I'm going to help with this video channel by reading this? Probably not. Am I doing this to be popular or to get attention? I'm not Dave Rubin. I could care less about attention. I want to go and retire and sit in a garden and drink sips of wine and eat nice, good food and have 2 or 3 decent friends I can talk to, have an honest, heartfelt conversation with. I want to feel compassion, and I want to give back to whatever community I find myself in whatever small way I can. I just want to be a loving human being. That's it. So I'm not here to play games. I'm not here to be cute, although I'm a little weird and I have a bizarre sense of humor, and my brain tends to go really fast and skip from one thing to another, making it hard for me to be understandable at times. And I'm going to try to work on this by writing articles at globehackers.com first and then going on camera second, so that I'll be a little bit more focused when I talk. Anyway, it's tough, because when you start thinking the way I have thought for years, it doesn't make you popular down the pub. It doesn't get you a lot of invites to dinner parties or barbecues, because you're talking to people about books, ideas, philosophy, climate change, politics, and people are like, oh man, you bore me. I want to tell you a war story about my work. I want to talk about the game. I want to talk about I'm going fishing next week, or tell you about my new car, or show you a nude picture from WhatsApp that I got from my new girlfriend, or whatever. I mean, not everyone's shallow. Okay, we all do that. We all gossip. We all talk shit. We all tell jokes, many, many off-color and stupid jokes. And when you know it's not done to hurt, it shouldn't be a big deal, but that's another story. This isn't going to make me popular. The closest. When I think about depression, it breaks my heart. because I've never been depressed. I've been a very fortunate man, and I've had a really lucky life. A lot of my friends haven't been so lucky. And I know when you talk about things that are not so happy, it could make you lonely. You'd lose a lot of friends, and you might start saying, shit, maybe I know what it's like to be depressed. Now, I'm not depressed, but my compassion, my heart goes out to those people. Anyway, so, talking about these issues isn't going to make you popular, but that's not what it's about. You talk about it and you learn about it. You educate yourself because you want to know what's going on. You want to know and understand how things work. And you want to help to create a better life for you and your community and your children. And it doesn't matter what side of the fence you grew up on, what your socioeconomic status is, whether you're in this political party or that political party, whether you're white, black, whether you're African or European or Arab, or Japanese or Chinese or from Bhutan or from Bangladesh or Sri Lanka. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. We're human beings, we're Homo sapiens sapiens, and we have more in common with each other than not, okay? Now we can parse all the small stuff and hide out in our filter bubbles, but the fact is we're all brothers and sisters. And if any of you people are religious out there or do like mythology, then remember what your wise teachers tried to teach. And it's about symbiosis, it's about coming together, it's about loving and respecting each other and doing things for each other. And I want to read those books again and I want to share it with you. I'll try to raise the production values to a point where you're not going to just sit there and get bored. I'm going to read a page a day, hopefully talk to somebody on Skype about it, and take it real slow. Talk about the content there. Maybe a page and a half, it depends. We'll see how things go. What I want to do is really digest the information there. And it's not the only books you can read. There are thousands of them. And I'm a big, huge book fan. I've got lots of books in this house and on my Kindle and stored on hard drives. I've got more books than I'll ever be able to read. Even if I do get like a new lower body, a cybernetic, whatever, lower body, and, printed new liver, gallbladder, lungs, all that stuff, and can live to be 150. Oh, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Cures for cancers, new types of antibiotics, oh God, CRISPR for good, not for profit. But under this particular socioeconomic scheme of things, none of this will ever happen because the gamers are going to compete among themselves and they're going to leave the rest of us out. And that's going to lead to hell on earth. If you read Niall Ferguson's book that I mentioned last time, or if you're a fan of history, you should know this by now. You may be too young to remember Vietnam or the first Gulf War or what led up to the First World War. But if you look at the bigger context of the Industrial Revolution and the Enlightenment, the 18th and 19th centuries in particular, and the 20th century, just look at those things. Look at the people, the thinking, what happened. Understand that history. If you don't have to go back to the ancient Greeks or to Babylon. Of course, learn about your own culture, your indigenous culture, but you have to understand the Industrial Revolution, how we got here, to all these grand and beautiful toys and things that we have right now. And with quantum computing and fusion energy and so on, we could get to the Dyson sphere someday. Great things could happen. I want to die knowing it's possible. for future generations, because this is the only life I've got. When I'm gone, it's gone. I know that. But the universe will continue. And life on Earth will continue, even if we're not here. But wouldn't it be grand if we could boldly go where no woman, it, they, them, he, she had gone before? Okay, I'm going to leave notes downstairs. I'd like you to look at that end of ice thing. One more climate change resource, environmental science, degree.com. There's a bunch of different things. I wanted to also explain just one more thing before I go. There's a difference between being an optimist and having hope, being hopeful. Now, I've always been an optimist my whole life, and it's got me through some really nasty shit. But I have to tell you, I'm optimistic that we can go to another galaxy, because I think we could get there. I'm optimistic that I can learn how to speak conversational Portuguese, because I really think I can get there. I'm optimistic that if I had to, I could build a house, because I have some carpentry in the background, blah, 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 handy. I'm optimistic that I could make a short film. Or, I'm optimistic that humanity will continue to get better. We'll get wiser. We won't always be shallow, greedy people, violent, shallow, greedy people. That human health could be available to everybody on the planet. That we could have sustainable water. That we could have a really rich habitat with biodiversity. That we can save the trees for future generations. I'm optimistic about so many things that I want to be optimistic about, because I think we can do it. I think it's possible. Now, just to be boring, let me put on my reading glasses. Optimistic, from a dictionary, okay? Adjective. Disposed to take a favorable view of events or conditions and to expect the most favorable outcome. That's optimism. Reflecting a favorable view of events and conditions and the expectation of a positive outcome. Okay? That's optimism. Now let's look at hope, because everybody talks about hope. Stephen, you just want to take my hope away. That's what you're after. You're hopeless. You want to destroy my hope, my faith. No, I don't. I'm optimistic that you can keep your hope and faith if you want it, but that's not going to get us there. Guy McPherson, and he's not a quack or an idiot, he talks about the need to grieve and the need to heal right now, because our grief isn't going to help us much. And there's a lot of good literature about hope. But anyway, here's Merriam-Webster Dictionary and a definition of hope. To cherish a desire with anticipation, to want something to happen or be true. Okay? To desire with expectation of obtainment of fulfillment. Now, look these words up and think about how they're different. Because I'm not very hopeful that we're going to make it out of this century. Our species, I'm telling you. Not just civilization. I think that I'm not very hopeful that the civilization is going to be around in 20 years. And I hate to say that, because everybody hates me for that. And I lose friends. Don't like that. But I'm optimistic that if we educate each other, we can turn this damn ship around. So that's why I'm going to read this, okay? It's not the only book. There's way too many. Peter Josephs is an extremely well-read young man. And everyone should be. There's no excuse not to be well-read. But anyway, he's got a lot of ideas from a lot of places, and he's kind of organized it into a nice little package, and it's worth understanding it. I'm not saying it's the be-all and end-all. It's what we have to do. You and other people probably have even better ideas. And maybe some of you understand the mechanisms of power and organization and management and whatever, all these skill sets that are needed to help turn the ship around. But we can't do it alone. No matter how diehard libertarian you are, you and yours down the ranch can't fix everything by yourself. You need people. Imagine if you were in a band of primitive Homo sapiens 10, 15,000 years ago. You needed everyone in your band. Everyone was important. You depended on each other to survive, just like a company or an office depends on its employees. We can talk about economics some other day because it's in the book, but it's complicated, I know. But we can do things differently. Trust me on that. And use your imagination. That's all I'm asking. If you can imagine it, you can do it. Okay? All right, folks. Satellites are still there. All these beautiful things are still happening. The cars are still crossing the bridge from Hong Kong over to Zhuhai and Macau. The airplanes are taking off. You can look out the window and see them taking off. Business is chugging along. People are down at the mall buying stuff. The ferry's rolling. It's all good. For now, we're living in the best of times. So let's not waste it. Thank you for watching, and I really do hope you'll subscribe and click like. Don't be a troll. Don't beat me up. Beat somebody else up. Don't have time for it. If you want to fight, I'm not here to fight. If you want me to listen to you, I'll listen to you. And I hope you'll listen to me too. So thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye-bye.
Bog Standard.